Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Randy Crabtree. We're committed to creating a thriving community of accounting professionals who are physically and mentally healthy, fulfilled, and energized by their work. Our ultimate goal is to elevate the reputation of the accounting profession and vastly improve the lives of those in it. The Unique CPA is brought to you by Trimerit, the specialty tax professionals.
Today our guest is John Fenton. John has a long history in public accounting. He's now out actually helping leaders in a bunch of industries, but public accounting for sure, be more successful in their leadership. John, welcome to the Unique CPA.
Hey, Randy, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Yeah, I'm glad we're getting this done because we've tried a few times, a few false starts, but today we're going to get it in. And
it's all good. It's all good.
I'm looking forward to it. I've been able to watch you a little bit online, see things you're doing. It's pretty exciting. But why don't you give us all a little background on, I'd mentioned you were in public accounting for quite a while with a large firm, and now you've transformed into this new career. Why don't you give us a little background on that overall journey?
Yeah. Sure. I'll try to keep it succinct. Let me know if I'm going over too much. But
you're good.
My life has been filled with transformations, actually. But I was a managing partner at BDO USA, and I worked in actually 4 different cities with that firm over my career, and the last being Atlanta, Georgia. And we've lived in Georgia now since 2002. And really, the timing was perfect for me because we were going through a great transformation at that time as a firm and really helped to lead the charge. We were a top 10 office, really just transform the business in terms of our client base and as well as the people on our team, and really worked hard at that. And I was always really focused on the marketing aspect of the business as well. And it's kind of how I came up through the ranks, was I really focused on marketing because certainly have to get technical skills, but I really focused on that area. And so I was really driven to grow the business the right way. And we really worked hard to do that and had some great partners that helped along the way there. But prior to all that, I was actually a collegiate athlete. I played college football at a very high level, University of Miami Hurricanes, and I was on a championship team.
I was going to ask that. I knew you played there. I was wondering if there was championships around that.
Well, it was a Peach Bowl championship, not a national championship.
That's all right.
But we had I played for Howard Snellenberger. I had 3 different head coaches while I was in college, which was really tough. That's a whole nother learning experience, right?
Yes.
But I played for Howard Snellenberger for my last 2 years, and my last year, which I was redshirted 1 year. So I actually got my accounting degree in 4 years and was working on my MBA that 5th year and completed my MBA that year, 1980 season, and we played in the Peach Bowl and won. So we finished 18th in the country, and we had a nice 9-win season. That was really great. Played with Jim Kelly. And a lot of the greats that went on to the NFL and coached some coaches. Mark Richt was one of our teammates, and he's prolific coaching on the ACC network. And so some great experiences there in that whole process. I grew up in the Miami area, and I just really decided to stay closer to home. I was actually highly recruited out of high school. I was fortunate to be at a state championship team. But prior to all that, I was the kid growing up that was not the antithesis of athletic. Okay. I didn't play any football until I got to high school.
Really?
And so I transformed myself into an athlete, and football. I really wanted to play basketball. Football really I seemed to do better at football for some reason. And I was a lineman, so I could throw my body in people's way, basically, right? But it was a great experience, great learning experience. And it was interesting. I've always been a kind of reflective kind of guy. So I was always kind of what made some teams great, some teams were terrible. And I was on both. I mean, I experienced both. I mean, I was on 3 and 8 football teams and an 18th ranked team in the country. And then 2-3 years later, we had a national championship team. And a lot of the guys who were on that team were freshmen my last year at Miami. What makes a team great? And that's really been something that's always driven me personally, is understanding that and applying that to the business world. And so I was always looking at leadership lessons from those things. So sports was a great way to obviously get into that and to learn that and understand that and challenge myself in many ways, overcoming a lot of obstacles. And so a lot of what I talk about nowadays and what I help leaders with is overcoming obstacles, having more clarity, and really kind of quieting down. You and I were talking earlier about kind of quieting, slow things down. That's so important. Along the way in my career, I discovered Tai Chi. Which really helped me a lot because I was able to really focus on mindfulness practices. I became a black belt in Tai Chi. It took me about 1.5 years. And I just fell in love with the rigor and the discipline of it. And it's a non-combative martial art for those who don't know about Tai Chi. but a lot of meditation and a lot of, really connecting with your body and focusing on your health, your physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and emotional health. And that helped me to be not only a better leader, but a better human being. And I applied that in my leadership role in the firm and in business. And I've continued to carry that. It's a foundational aspect of how I work with CEOs and managing partners. And I can work with people in different industries, but I've really been focusing on the accounting profession for the last 3 or 4 years, which makes a whole lot of sense since I came out of that profession. I actually, I've retired 10 years ago, which is amazing, right? And I kind of meandered in my career, figuring out what I was going to do as a coach and a leader, and had some great experiences with Vistage as a Vistage coach, training from that. And then also Jack Canfield, Success Principles coach, got certified there in that. And applying my 30 plus years in accounting profession, and then 10 years since then, working with accountants and CPAs in various ways, helping them be the best they can be. And I'm having the time of my life. I mean, I'm just so happy to be I'm glad we met. We met at the Accounting Today Firm Growth Forum back in May. It was a great event, and I enjoyed meeting you there and meeting some other folks there. And just want to really just continue to deep dive into the profession and help CPAs be the best they can be and have the best life that they can have.
Yep, I agree. I think you and I kind of have same mindsets around that. Mm-hmm. It's a great profession. It's done a lot for me, but I see things that can be improved. I'm no expert, but at least I know there's always things we can be better at. And if we can be out there and educate in some level to help, I think that's well worth it.
It's an amazing time really in the profession. I mean, there's been people talking about some of the things we're applying now, we've been talking about for probably 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. How do we value our work? How do we value the services we provide? How do we relate to our customers? What kind of firm do we want to have? What's the future hold? Like, what does the future hold? I mean, what kind of legacy do we want to leave in our firms? And there's so much, there's so much going on in the industry right now. A lot of disruption. I think the pandemic accelerated a lot of that for a lot of businesses, and particularly the accounting profession. We always had, for a long time, we had the capability for remote work, but nobody really wanted to. It was used infrequently, right? And sometimes you have the right personality to be someone to actually be remote and actually do the work and get the job done. And so a lot of times we just stayed away from it for the most part. And I think technology was there already for us to do that. And so now there's a real sea change going on in the industry.
For sure. I think there's still a fear of remote work from leadership. Mm-hmm. I don't know. You're the one out dealing with leaders. But when I talk to people, I see that, at least at the larger firms, more so. Mm-hmm. Although that being said, I was just talking with a woman who's a VP at Sickage, VP of Corporate Culture, I think is her title. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about remote work. And Sickage is top 25 CPA firm, I think. 74% of their employees are remote workers. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so I think, I don't know, it feels like it's like, well, how can I control things if I can't see people? And I think that in my mind is a mindset that you have to get rid of. I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
I do. I have a couple of clients that they're hybrid, right? They have a combination of some people remote, some in the office, and some combination. And I think what my thoughts are around that is you really need to be intentional about rethink management and leadership with those people in those remote locations. And there's a way to do that. And I think one of the ways I'm constantly reading and getting information from other firms and just reading industry newsletters and things, and really trying to stay plugged in, McKinsey reports and some of the bigger firm Deloitte reports and things of that nature. My opinion is the way to tackle this is to be more intentional about how we handle remote work, how we think about it, to make sure people are getting the job done. And there's ways to do that, but also connecting with people. For me, the biggest issue is really about engagement, employee engagement. And that's so important. And there's all kinds of reports and data about how engagement is waned. It was improved during the pandemic, then it went down again. And I mean, the bottom line is people want to know that they can contribute to a firm, that they have a place in the firm, and that people value them as human beings. And so I'm afraid I was in a retreat last month with a client with their next gen leaders. And one of the things came up about engagement. It's a very issue, it's a very topic. And I said, you know what? If you want to have higher levels of engagement with your staff and your employees, you got to engage with them.
Yeah.
Take the lead. It's like anything else. If you want people to respect you, you got to respect them.
Right.
Engage with them. Give them more challenging opportunities. I mean, one of the things I always, and I shared with the group, one of the things I'll never forget, I just joined BDO. I started my career with Arthur Andersen. long before all the issues came up
Right.
later on, and joined BDO in the Houston office. And, I was a new kid in the block. I was semi-senior. What does that even mean? I was a semi-senior, came on board there. And so I was in the office because they didn't have any assignments for me yet, right? I was a couple of weeks in the office. And one of the managing partner came to me and said, hey, take a look at this projection I'm doing for this cattle ranch. I had no idea what was even entailed in running a cattle ranch. But I took a look at it and I spent some time with it, and I came back with a couple of suggestions, and the look on his face was like, oh, think about that. So it just made me feel like I was, somebody valued, I actually contributed something, right? And look, I'm a baby boomer, right? So people talk about the different generations and X, Y, Z, whatever. The bottom line is, I think my grandson's 2.5. He's alpha. I think he's alpha generation.
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, exactly. The alpha generation. But they just want to know that somebody cares about them and they can contribute.
Right.
Now, you're always going to have outliers. There's always going to be somebody in your firm that doesn't want to really get the job done, is not really engaged, probably will never be engaged. And you probably gut check, you can probably know who they are, whether they're remote or not. You can kind of tell, I think. I mean, I felt like I had one of my strengths was being able to kind of read people sometimes and kind of understand where they were and kind of project them into the next levels or future levels. And I was pretty good about that. Not always 100%, right? But I think just knowing your people, getting to know them as best you can, creating ways for them to connect with each other virtually. You can still do that virtually, but also have that face-to-face in real time, person to person. I love that. I love going to companies and leading a 2-day retreat or a mini retreat for 1 day, live and in person, because there's so much more that happens in that room as opposed to being virtual. But we talked about that a moment ago. But, the human interaction is so important and relationships are so important. One of my mantras is, whatever business you're in, if you're in the accounting business, you're in the relationship business. Relationships with your clients, relationships with your employees, your partners, your vendors, the community. You're in relationship business. And if you really think about it, if you think about the people that made the most impact, I know people made the most impact in my life, in my career, in sports and in business, were not so much, hey, that person, had a great book of business and they, hit out of the park, whatever. It was the relationships and the interaction and being able to actually talk to somebody as a real human being and have a real conversation.
Yep, I agree. And I think I've said this on the show before, but I mean, what you're saying is the way we look at our business. The people are the most important thing, that we all, have value to give. I, over the years, have become a very good delegator. I wasn't early in my career. I am now, to the point where I don't really do anything that I don't want to do or I'm not good at, because there's no reason for me to do it. Yeah. But the one cool, what I was going to say, and I think I've said this on the show before, one of the biggest compliments I ever got was, well, let me set the stage. Our business is remote. For the most part, our people are remote. We have an office in the Chicago suburbs. Sometimes people are there, sometimes they're not. We have small offices around the country. But really, from day one, we were a remote business. We get together twice a year as a company. Like you just said, that face-to-face is so important. We celebrate who people are outside of work. Either you're the project manager, great, but no, you're the mountain biker or whatever. And so we celebrate that and we allow people to share that. And I'm going to try to shorten my story, but here's one of the greatest compliments I ever received. And I think I've said this on the show before. And there wasn't even, somebody wasn't talking to me. We had last November company meeting out in San Diego. We had a photographer there, taking pictures and headshots, but just action shots and everything, two of us getting together. And this photographer does this all the time. And he said to somebody I work with, he told her, you know what? I'm out there. I'm working these corporate events all the time. I'm taking these pictures. This is the first time I cannot tell who the partners of this firm are. And I thought, that's pretty cool. They were all the same level. We're all important. We're all valued, and we're not a clique. It's not somebody standing over there and someone standing over there. Everybody was part of it. So that's sorry, you're the guest, not me today, but
that's okay, man. It's your show.
But I just think that to kind of reiterate what you said, or to show how important it is, the valuing the people you work with is extremely important, especially in a remote culture.
Yeah. I talked earlier about some of the things that I'm seeing in the industry and the people I'm working with. And couple of issues that I see is, one, trust is a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
And really, this remote thing is about trust and level of trust,
Yep.
really. And a lot of times I'll ask, I was at I gave a 3-hour presentation to a senior executive team about 4 years ago. And I said, okay. And the meeting was going really well. And about halfway through, I took a chance. And I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the level of trust? And the CEO was in the room. There's just 7 senior execs, including the CEO. I had them write it down. And I said, and then I asked them to report, okay, what was your number, right, in front of the CEO?
Yeah.
Everybody was like a 5, 4, 5, or 6 in that range, right?
Okay.
The CEO was a 9. Okay, of course, because
Yeah.
we have these biases, right? Especially
Yep.
the CEO, like everything's great, everything's rosy. I asked that question recently of a new client, managing partner and CEO, and I asked him, and he was very honest. Yeah, probably about a 6. And I said, great. So that gives us a launching off point. But it's the next question is what's really most valuable. So if it's not a 10, it's kind of like a net promoter score almost. If it's not a 10, what would make it a 10?
Right.
No matter what the number is. If it's a 9, what would make it a 10? That's where the real conversation begins. That's where the real insights. And so, people sometimes will sit on their hands and kind of, hold back and that kind of thing. But I have a way in my workshops and seminars and retreats of creating an environment where people feel more comfortable, allowing themselves to be a little bit more vulnerable and sharing more to really add to the conversation.
Yep. I think vulnerability is huge in leadership. That's one of the biggest things. Transparency is something that I think helps build trust as well. And then empathy, I mean, as well, have to understand what people are dealing with and not just decide
empathy. Yeah, empathy and compassion for sure. And I say meeting them where they're at.
Yep.
Meet them where they're at. And just try, have a real conversation with them. I have a little tool that I give to my clients. I call it the Engagement Accelerator. It's a little 2-page kind of cheat sheet. And it allows people to really kind of frame up a conversation because we don't like conflict, right?
Mm-mm.
We don't.
No.
One of my clients at even the board of partner level, there was an internal conflict that had been brewing. And I got a call from the CEO and she's like, John, you got to help me. I don't know what to do. And we talked about it a little bit, what the issue was. And it was kind of a lack of trust and some bad history, some history of some things that didn't go well with the partner group over the years. And I just said to her, I said, well, are you okay? Are you comfortable facing this head on? And I will help you.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a little mini retreat, turned into a 1-day retreat, if you will, with the board of partners to deal with and to help them understand how to get issues on the table and talk about them in a way that people can actually have a conversation. And that's the hardest part because there's so many emotions that get pulled into this and egos and all that stuff. And it really worked. As a matter of fact, the feedback I got from her about a month later was, man, it's like a new firm.
Nice.
It's like a new firm because we're all now pulling together, working together, and just to give them a way to frame up the conversation, leave ego and judgment at the door, and just have a real conversation. That's so important.
It's tough, like you said. Conflict, I avoid it at all costs.
Oh, I know we do. It's human nature. Who wants to get conflict, right?
Exactly. In reality, if you just meet it head on, that 10 minutes of your perceived pain is going to be just so cathartic and worth getting past it. So now you can be, not have that in the back of your head.
Well, because what happens is it's the anticipation of the event. So it's a future event experiencing as real. It's an acronym for fear, right? You put all this stuff, energy into what you think is going to happen, or you back burner it, right? What's just nagging at you constantly. It's there always.
Yep.
If you want to have a thriving, successful, super successful firm, you've got to get those issues on the table in a way that's productive.
Mm-hmm.
Take the emotion, the ego out of the equation the best you can and have the conversation, find a common ground. But if you don't get on the table, it's going to keep nagging and it's going to really chip away at the trust. That's what happened. This firm for years had some trust issues building.
Yep.
And our work together in the last 2 years has really been around strategic vision, but also strengthening trust, which is a kind of a byproduct of the process that I take firms through to really help them find a better way to work together to create the future that they want to create.
Yep. All right. Well, we probably didn't go down any path we were planning. We just got a conversation going. I do want to touch on something that you said briefly before, and I want you to expand on what you're doing as well before we close up today,
Sure.
because we kind of hinted at what you're doing, and you talked about the programs you're doing, retreats and everything. But before we close up, we'll get to that. But the one thing that you had mentioned things that were important to you, and early on you said value, and you use value when you're talking about employees, but you're also saying we need to figure out how to value our services, right? And I think that's such a key thing in our profession. I'm probably going down a rabbit hole that we can go down forever, but you want to expand on that?
Sure. Back when I was at BDO, this is many years ago, we had an internal meeting with some leadership, and we were looking at some new ways of thinking about the business. And I was in a group meeting, and it just struck me like a lightning bolt. I don't know if Ron Baker came and spoke to us or somebody. You know Ron
Right.
Baker.
I know
right?
Ron.
So,
yep.
so it just struck me like a light bulb. Why are we worried about these billable hours?
Yes.
Clients want a fixed fee. They want to know what they're going to pay.
Yes.
To me, billable hours is really a cost accounting tool. So if you want to hold people accountable, yeah, but let's get away from being tied to the billable hour. What is the real value? And the way I think about it is it's the whole Simon Sinek, know your why.
Yes.
Why are you in business? Why do you do what you do? And so part of my strategic visioning process is including if you think of a target, like a bullseye is sort of your why.
Right.
Why do we exist?
Yep.
And have that conversation, a brainstorming session, get it on the table. People are going to have different views about that and reach some consensus. And really tap into it, because what you're doing is you're tapping into the emotional side of your business. And if you're clear about why you do what you do and the value you bring to the table at an emotional level,
yep,
that's going to resonate with your clients. So you're going to attract the kind of clients that want to have that value, because not all companies are going to be a good client. And you're going to attract the people that want to come and work for you. To me, it's the same equation, either inside and outside. I call it making your organization internally sticky with your people as well as outside. And so for me, value is just so important. And, recently I was in a conversation with a managing CEO of a firm, and we were talking about some of the things that I could do for them. And they came back with, obviously didn't articulate appropriately what the real value was for them. And they came back with a number. I said, I'm sorry, I can't help you, because what you think you want is not what I really want to deliver to you. And here's all the reasons, but we just decided to part ways. And sometimes you got to do that, right? Not everybody's going to be a perfect fit for your firm.
Exactly.
So value is so important, and it's a mindset. It's really about a mindset. And also selling. We as accountants, we win in accounting because we don't go into marketing because we thought it was BS, right? So it's like, to me, selling, all it is you have a client who has a need, and you have a way to solve their problem. If you can't solve their problem, you're not going to do any work for them in that particular project. But if you have a system or a process or whatever that can help your client solve their problem, and the client sees how urgent they recognize how urgent that problem may or may not be to them, if it's urgent, they're going to be happily pay you for the value you provide. So it's shifting the whole mindset and the paradigm around. I think as accountants, we tend to undervalue ourselves.
Oh, a ton.
Right.
And what you said with the billable hour, I just think there's so many negative aspects to that, just for everybody, the client, for you personally, for the firm. I mean, the incentives are backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, 100 years ago, it made sense, right? Or 50 years ago, because you actually billed the hours you put in.
Right.
We've been on fixed in the accounting profession, particularly in the assurance side, right? In certain services, we have been billing fixed fee arrangements for a long time.
Right. Well, we're on the same plan with all this stuff. So that's pretty cool. Hey, we're going to need to start wrapping up here in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about what you are doing. You're out working with firms, leaders, managing partners, and all kinds of things, retreats and one-on-ones and consulting. And why don't you give us a little background on it?
Yeah, my system, I call it the Leadership Mastery Blueprint. And so it's either a one-on-one, typically it's a one-on-one relationship with a CEO, managing partner, or a partner, and also group coaching in addition to that, and strategic working sessions. So we're strategic visioning, dealing with conflict, those kind of things, whatever the client needs. So everything's custom to the client's needs and situation. And it's built on a foundation of really tapping into being an authentic leader, kind of clearing the clutter, if you will, having more clarity so you enjoy your life more, have less stress as a result, and really have a better life as a leader and a CPA and in the profession. And as you articulated in the intro, it's all about having a better life, and we don't need to grind ourselves into the ground. And you've had some experiences, I've had some experiences with health around that. And, I grew up where it was 70, 80 hours a week and, weekends and SEC filings and all that stuff. And it took a toll on me for sure, which prompted me to take an early retirement, 10 years ago now, from BDO, and really led me on a path to what I do now, which I just am thoroughly enjoying myself and love every minute of just working with leaders in the profession to help them be the best they can be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love what you're doing and everything you're saying. It's almost like you're a generation younger than you are, because the
maybe one or two, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel the same way with myself. So that's cool.
Right. My tagline is, I came up with this as a result of my martial arts training. I said CEO sensei. And sensei is a Japanese word, actually, but that means teacher, really.
Right.
And all it really means, a master only, in terms of mastery, we're always striving to be a master, to master something, but you never quite get there.
Right.
Daniel Pink, in his book, Drive, talked about that. But to me, it's about continual self-improvement, continual learning. I'm always learning new things. That's what makes life exciting.
Yep.
I'm not the kind of guy who's going to sit on a porch and drink cocktails at 5:00, although I do sometimes, and play golf every day, right? I want to be out there in the working world with the profession and helping the leaders be the best they can be.
That's awesome. All right. So a couple last questions. First, we've been talking about business and what you're doing and everything, but what are your outside of work passions? What do you enjoy doing when you're not out coaching leaders?
I love spending time with my grandson. He's 2.5.
Nice.
It's just a blast to be with him, and he's so loving. And I only had one daughter, so I have one shot at a grandson. So this is really cool. And spending time with him, little boy time. He's learned my name, Pop. Pop. He hasn't said my wife's name properly yet, so I figured that. I heard her nickname, but he got to me first, apparently. He doesn't even say Mama yet, so it's just kind of interesting.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Yeah. So
nice.
My daughter said, that must be a guy thing. But that, and I love to play golf. It really fuels my competitive spirit to do that. I love fishing, fly fishing in particular.
Oh, cool.
I haven't done a fly fishing trip in a while, so I need to get back out there and do that. So those are some of the things I like. And I enjoy reading. I'm reading American Prometheus right now, which is about Oppenheimer, which is the movie was based on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty long book. I took it on vacation. I got about halfway through it, but it's a Pulitzer Prize winning book, actually. So
nice.
I love biographies and I love history, but I also read for fun too. And I read business books, related books as well, to kind of keep fresh of what's going on in the world and understanding what's happening out there. So.
Then one last, if people want to find out more about what you're doing or see what, connect with you, where would they look or where would they connect?
Yeah, go to johnjfenton.com. You can get my free engagement accelerator cheat sheet. So it's johnjfenton.com/engage.
Nice.
And you'll connect with me that way and would love to have a conversation.
All right, John. Well, I appreciate you being on. This was a lot of fun for me. Awesome. I love all the things you're doing. So thanks for being here.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and learn more about TriMerit at theuniquecpa.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on the Unique CPA. Professionalproductions.net